Today I'm going to be learning about Melbourne, the only Australian city I've ever been to. I absolutely loved everything about it. This video is called the most livable city in the world. Tell me if you agree with that. Is it the most livable city in Australia? Is it the most livable city in the world? I would say it's got to be up there, man. It's really a perfect city. Let's watch this video, we can find out more about it.
It was named the world's most livable city throughout the 2010s. Backed by its strong infrastructure, low crime rate, relatively clean downtown, it's no wonder why. Welcome to Melbourne.
Melbourne.
As the capital city of the state of Victoria, Melbourne is a fast-developing metropolis that's simple to explore on foot. It's a city that's full of fantastic live music, signature graffiti-laced alleyways, and an exceptional waterfront to tie it all together.
Yeah, just walking around.
The main way I got around was by an above-ground train, which operates on a reloadable funds travel card called a MyKey. All trains outside the CBD converge on Flinders Street Station. Opened in 1854, this station stretches for more than 2 city blocks and is one of the most recognized landmarks in Melbourne. Once in the central business district, it's simple to just walk around for some shopping or hop on a free tram service that can take you around the confines of the city. Once outside the perimeter of downtown though, you must pay to ride the trams.
Yeah, tell me what you think about the infrastructure in Melbourne and how it compares to the other cities of Australia.
Skyline is pretty sweet. It's pay to ride the trams. The Melburnian skyline is pretty sweet. The South Bank Riverwalk is great to take in the sights, but food and drinks are quite expensive. I'm just not a fan of the doo-doo brown color of the Yarra River, which runs through the city and into the harbor. Melbourne's definitely got an eclectic food scene with all sorts of eateries located within its hidden alleyways, as well as street side where you can find lots of amazing local and international cuisine.
Is Melbourne the best place in Australia for food choices as well? Do any other cities compare? When I was there, I thought the food was absolutely fantastic, man. Especially coming from Malaysia, I was like in heaven. The amount of choices and the quality of the food.
Also worth noting that Melbourne is a progressive city that is passionate about global issues like climate change, women's rights, and migrant refugees. Oftentimes, there are several protests happening outside Parliament, and it's a good step towards addressing climate change, which set off the Australian bushfires that devastated the native koala population.
Whoa, geez, that's very effective.
Some of my favorite neighborhoods were St. Kilda, which is southeast of the CBD and is built through a bohemian lifestyle. Fitzroy and Collingwood are both northeast of the city and is popular with young professionals, backpackers, and students. It's got more street art than I've seen anywhere else, and it's almost encouraged to tag the entire suburb.
Yeah, tell me what you think about the street art.
It's definitely
in
in
Melbourne.
a theme of its own, and that's what makes it stand out. There's nothing overly flashy here, and it brought me back to the college days of laid-back living. There's a ton of Victorian-era architecture, green natural space, and of course, plenty of local bars to grab a cold one and watch some Australian rules football. But why not just attend a live game instead?
Sure.
We went to Marvel Stadium, the famed comic book giant company, for an exhibition game.
Marvel Stadium?
Walking in is similar to attending an NFL game back home, except that the playing field is a giant oval. It's often referred to as footy, where 2 teams of 18 players engage in a physical contest. We ended up rooting for the Dogs.
Go on.
So close
The
to
games
the
are always
action
high
as well.
pace, high score, and even if I didn't always understand what was happening, it was fun to follow. After the game,
Aussie rules stadiums, I love it because of the shape of them. For me, they're very unique compared to a lot of other sports stadiums, but actually one of my most enjoyable stadiums to look
and
at.
what was happening, it was fun to follow. After the game, Darth Vader rocked out some AC/DC for the fans,
Nice.
which was both legendary and the most Australian thing ever. At night, the city of Melbourne comes alive with vibrant lights and reflective streets. The street art also shifts with the time of the day, with melancholy lighting and even some interactive art on full display. We set off to the Dandenong Ranges, which are roughly an hour and a half drive east from the city, to do a little hiking and also get to view some native Australian wildlife. Most notably, the wild grey kangaroos and wallabies that like to hang out in the area. Seeing these animals outside of a zoo, doing their thing and hopping around was amazing. Always a good idea to watch from a distance and not approach without warning. The laughing sound of the kookaburra bird, though, was slightly terrifying.
It's like maniacal laugh. Yeah, I mean, having this sort of like nature so close to the city is a good thing, but I think like most cities in Australia have like wonderful nature, you could say, pretty much on their doorstep. Is there any city that's closest? What like nature things do you think are close? What city has the best nature things close to it, or what state has the best nature? Scary to walk through there at night hearing that.
I traveled several hours north to live the farm life on a horse farm, visit sites like Organ Pipes National Park.
Whoa, cool. Organ pipes? I mean, it really does look
Hanging
like
rock.
organ pipes. Hanging rock.
This was a former volcano where the magma cooled and contracted to split into large pinnacles. These pinnacles shoot straight up around the natural phenomenon, and it's a great place to discover and summit as you overlook Australia's famous wine countryside. I took another train to go even further north to the town of Bendigo, which goes by the beat of its own drum. It's the most northern large city in Victoria and is a former gold rush boomtown during the 19th century. One of the prominent landmarks is Sacred Heart Cathedral, and it's one of Australia's largest churches. Its ceiling stretches on for 24 meters, while the main spire is close to 88 meters high, an architectural marvel worthy of checking out.
Yeah, you mentioned the gold rush in Australia there. I learned briefly about that recently. Tell me more about that. It's something I never really knew too much. Of course, I knew it happened in America, but I never really knew too much about it happening in Australia. And like, I'm sure there must be a lot of towns, like small gold rush towns around Australia that maybe have been abandoned or aren't as popular as they once were. Is there any that are quite well known?
I wrapped up my travels in Victoria at the beginning of September, where spring was on the horizon in the southern hemisphere. After getting to the airport and walking through the gnarliest duty-free of all time, I loaded onto my plane.
Of course, as I mentioned, I've been to Melbourne, and I just felt so happy every day just walking around, going for food, going to some galleries, museums, going to the market. It's just such a perfect city, in my opinion anyway. I mean, of course, we never mentioned like the coffee and things like that also, but if you're from Melbourne, tell me what your favourite thing to do in Melbourne is. Tell me if you're from outside Melbourne, what's your opinion of Melbourne? What's your opinion of people from Melbourne? That might be quite an interesting question. Tell me in the comments, and yeah, tell me what you think about Melbourne. Thanks.